Hey, it's Emma Romano here, founder of the Thrive and Life Foundation, self-healing coach, and the midwife to your personal alchemy.
I am Kelly Bowen, founder of the Heaven Within Foundation, CEO of Lifestyle Finance Australia, finance expert, life and business coach.
And you are listening to Inspired Conversations,
where we talk about the things that really matter. Yes, we go there.
We share together what's exciting us, inspiring us, and having the most profound impact on our lives and our clients' lives. And we do this to elevate and inspire you.
We cover it all from life, body, love, relationships, trauma healing, addictions, business, money, and all things woo-woo.
So sit back, relax,
and get ready to be inspired and laugh the fuck out loud.
Welcome, everybody. It's Emma Romano here. Kelly is in Egypt as we speak. So she is definitely coming up. We're doing podcasts together very soon. This is Inspired Conversations with Em and Cal, and I want to introduce an incredible woman that has been my mentor, the person I've looked up to, one of my greatest friends as well, and it's Eleni Mitas. So who is Eleni? Eleni is a podcaster. She's a podcaster of 2 podcasts. She's got The Shame Game and The Soul Sisters Get Real.
It's actually 3 podcasts.
Podcast.
There's the third one is Galactic Guidance.
Oh my God. There was Galactic Guidance. So make sure you check her out. She's also the founder of the world's only global hypnotherapy clinic. She's got 22 around the world, literally all over the world. It's amazing. And this is how I met Eleni. So I met Eleni when I learned hypnotherapy, and I'm actually going to tell you the story, right? So I met Eleni. I was doing hypnotherapy, and everyone told me that as a hypnotherapist in Australia, you can only earn about $40,000. And I heard of this woman who does these meetup groups and stuff like that. And I went to my very first meetup group, and I'd been stalking Eleni, right? Been stalking her. I've been stalking her work, like her website, everything. It's so funny. You're going to laugh at this. And I was in awe of her because I'm like, this woman has made it big in the hypnotherapy field. And she's true to herself, and she's a freaking go-getter, and she's beautiful, she's loving, she's gorgeous. I'm like, I want to be her when I grow up, right? So I decided to go to this meetup group, and Eleni had written a book. I've still got it here somewhere. Mindset something, I think it's, what was it?
Mindset Dominance.
Mindset Dominance, that's it. There it is, Mindset Dominance. And I won it. And I was like, yes, it was so good. And then I just signed up to all of Eleni's work. It was amazing. And you're the one who got me to go to America and like inspired me to go to America and present and get out of my own way and do things. You've been amazing. But this is not why she's here, peeps. Eleni is here that's my dog yelling in the back. She's here to inspire you. She messaged me and she goes, can I get in your podcast? I'm like, of course you can. What are you going to talk about? Shame. It's one of my favorite freaking topics, because there's 3 things that most of you know that, because I talk about all the time, that dysregulate any relationship. And that could be with money, people, self, God, whatever. It's shame, trauma, and agreements. So, Eleni, I am so excited that we get to talk about shame today.
Yay. And also I want to mention that back then when I met you, Emma, I was known as Eleni Mitas, and It was only a couple of years ago that I reverted back to my birth name, Eleni. And so, it was like almost like a different part of me that was doing the hypnotherapy. I'm still a hypnotherapist. I've still got a clinic in Melbourne, but I want to talk about one of my new podcasts, which is The Shame Game. And I want to talk about why and how that came about. And I never thought that I would be talking to you about shame today. Like, it was something, if you asked me 6 months ago, like, what do you want to talk about on my podcast? I wouldn't say shame. Like, it's not something I thought that I would be interested in talking about, but I want to tell you as to how it came about. So I did a meditation mastery course about a little while back, And in that meditation mastery course, I needed to do a meditation, and I'm a good student. I always do what I'm told. And the meditation said, bring up a scene about something you feel ashamed about. Now, it's interesting. If I didn't do that course, Emma, I wouldn't have even done this meditation. Like, this is not a meditation I would choose, because according to me, according to my ego, I'm good. Like, I've done lots of healing. I've done lots of clearing. Like, I got no shame inside me. Like, I'm good. So it would never have been a meditation that I would have picked up and said, oh yeah, I'll do that when I need that.
Yeah.
So I said, oh yeah, I'll do it, because it's like I have to do it because I'm a good student. I do everything I'm told. And so I did it. And then a scene came up from 27 years prior that shook me to my core. It was obviously still stuck in my body. I didn't know that it was. And I cried and cried and cried for half a day.
Yeah.
And that absolutely shocked me, because it's like, oh my God, is this shame living in my body for all those years? And I never knew. I thought it was done. It was something I never even thought about anymore.
Yeah. It's so big. Can you explain in your words of what shame is for the beautiful listeners? What does shame mean to you?
So shame is when we identify with our actions that may not have been our highest moment. So as an example, when we do something and we think that that action is actually us, it's actually me, I did that. And even with recipients of child abuse, it's usually because the reason that they feel this shame is because the body actually had a pleasant reaction in some way. So they feel like they allowed it to continue in some way. So this goes to not just actions that you've initiated. This could be actions that you're the receiver of as well. But you're actually aligning those actions and believing them to be you. You actually think they are you, that you are this person that did that act. Yes, you're the person that did that act, but you are not your actions. It was just a moment in time that was not your best moment. It wasn't your greatest moment. It's not who you are. It doesn't define who you are. But shame is we take it on as, this is who I am. I am that person.
Yeah, it's almost like we take it on like a cloak of honor. Like, I'm just going to shroud myself in this shame. And by taking off that shroud, it's just so liberating and so open to abundance. Because I look at yours and my life, Eleni, and how different we have been in the last just few years. Like, massive. And I was introduced to shame. I did shame very well. You know, I was brought up in a private Catholic girls' school. We were shamed into behaving ourselves like God's watching you. Don't be a naughty girl. It was all shame. But also on the other side of shame is when people don't protect us, or people don't work with us, or people don't help us, we can go into, why am I not good enough for you to be different for me? And that's what I find, like, that was huge for me around, especially around forgiveness for my father. My father would come in and out of my life all my life and really disrupted me and would tell me horrible, horrible things about my family. And the shame was, why couldn't he have been different for what I needed as a little girl? That was a massive shame thing for me. So I was used to shame. I just felt shame around myself all the time. But how did you help yourself shift out of that shame around yourself from 27 years ago?
Well, what I did was I allowed it. So I didn't distract myself. I didn't go and do something else. I didn't pretend that it didn't happen. I actually just let it go, like really let it go. And then it happened at my clinic in Melbourne, because I visit there every month. And it was, the universe arranged it perfectly. The lady that, one of the ladies that was working there, a beautiful hypnotherapist, she's also a Reiki master. And she just saw that there was something going on with me the moment she entered the building. And I knew that she was going to help me somehow. And she just did some beautiful Reiki on me in that moment. See, I didn't have to work it out. I didn't have to go somewhere. I didn't have to do something. Like, I didn't even know who was working that day. I never know who's working, at any one day unless I go in the calendar and have a look. So there's a few people that work every single day. And she was on, and she was exactly who I needed at that time. The universe just worked it out for me. And, she helped me. But the most important thing that I did was, whether she was there or she wasn't going to be there, was really just allow the feeling, like feel the feeling. Don't try and stop the feeling, like really feel it. Allow myself to cry and release. And it took a long time for it to release, but I got there. And then the next thing I knew that I needed to do to completely let go of the shame was to tell people about it. So I knew straight away I needed to create a podcast about it, because if I was holding this shame, who thinks that there's nothing going on with me anymore, and it was so deep and I had held it for so many years, then I knew that other people would be too. And then I also knew that when I created this podcast, that I would have to be the first person in the first episode that tells the world about my shame, because I can't sit there and interview other people about theirs unless I'm prepared to share mine. And it was one of the most difficult acts of my life. And I've done a lot of hard things, but this, just speaking here into a laptop and telling people the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst, in terms of not what somebody else did, but what I did. The worst and the worst and the worst. And to actually own up to it and tell the world and publish it was one of the hardest things I did. But I knew that that was part of the healing journey. And I also knew that this is why this shame had been gifted to me, so that we can share it, so that we know that we're all okay. We're all okay. We just think we aren't.
It's so true, because we've shamed ourselves into believing that we're not okay. We're fine. We are really good. Yeah. I did the same. I had this little dirty secret, and the secret was I was drinking very heavily every night. And especially when I became successful in the business is when I drank more, which you would think it would be the opposite, but it wasn't. It was a whole, I don't deserve the success, I don't deserve the money, I don't deserve all that. And I had tried for 2 years to stop drinking. Like I'd done all kinds of things, but I really hadn't made the decision. And I was almost, this is a funny one as well. I would go to a hypnotherapist. I'd tell them, I've got a problem, but I can't tell you my problem, but can we get rid of it? They'd be like, do you want to give me a hand? I'm like, no, because I was so ashamed of it that I couldn't even admit it out loud. And then it all came to a head. And I just knew, I was the same as you. I just knew I had to share it, because I took myself through this session that I created on the morning of my husband's and my wedding anniversary. I'm like, my God, Emma, you're known as the toughest freaking coach out there. Like, be tough on yourself. And I was fetal position on the ground, like bawling my eyes out. But I knew all I had to do was allow myself to feel it, because I think what especially us women think is this: if I fall apart, who's going to pick me up? We are. Because when you fall apart, if you're apart, the only way to go is together again. And you have to allow yourself to break. And if you can have the house to yourself or go somewhere and really allow yourself to bawl your eyes out, cry, and then go, okay, and find someone safe to share it with, that's important. Because as soon as I had stopped that morning, I went, I now know I'm a non-drinker anymore, like not even a sip. And that's when I went on for all the people that I taught. I went, I've got to tell you something. It's going to be at 5 o'clock tonight. It's going to be alive. And I went, I've got a secret. It's now gone. It went off this morning, but I was drinking a bottle of wine on my own every night. So like, holy shit, we never knew. And I'm like, yeah, it was so shameful of me to do it, but I was so out of alignment with myself. But I think declaring it, Eleni, like you were saying, you've declared it, it's almost like it's not yours anymore.
Well, it's not this big, you're not giving it energy. Like if you
Yeah, it's
can't
not this
share it,
big thing.
if you can't share it, it means that you're giving it real big importance. Like it's really important, this big important thing that I can't share with you.
Yeah.
Whereas when you share it, it's like, you know what? I'm human. And yeah, it wasn't my best moment, but I'm human. And people relate to people being human. People understand that you are not on this pedestal and being this incredible person that doesn't do any wrong and doesn't make mistakes. So all of these events and experiences that we all have are part of what we're supposed to do later on anyway. And so we've got to stop giving it so much significance that it means something terrible about us. It just means that we were human. It doesn't justify and say, oh yeah, it's okay if we do that, but it's okay to just talk about it, let it go and say, that's what I did. That's not who I am.
There's something I would love to talk about. So by releasing that really deep shame, you didn't even know it was there, because I know you've done a lot of healing in the past years. Like it's been amazing watching your journey. It's been so beautiful. What has changed in your life since dropping the shame from 27 years ago?
That's a really good question, Emma. I think that what has, I think
You're
that what
welcome,
has,
Eleni.
I think that what has changed is watching every little bit and thinking, well, why don't I want to say it this way? As an example, after that, I went online and did a number of videos where I was wearing zero makeup, like wearing the worst possible clothes you can imagine, hair all ratty, and just showing up raw as myself, like rather than, oh no, I have to like wear this makeup so people think that I'm okay. It's like, this is who you are. This is who you are when you're at home. So show yourself exactly as who you are. I'll give another example, something I wouldn't have done. Yesterday, I shared a video of my father singing in Greek, and I would not normally have shared that, not because I was ashamed of my dad, I'm proud of my dad, but because it's like, well, most people don't understand the language, so what's the point? But it's like, doesn't matter, it's part of me, it's who I am. I don't have to think about other people and whether they like it or not. So it's really been not showing up in terms of how other people expect me to show up, but showing up as who I really am, warts and all.
And what's been the effect of that? Because I know as women, we sit there and go, oh, my face needs to be perfect, my hair needs to be perfect, blah, blah, blah. By just showing up as you, has the earth stopped rotating?
Exactly. Look, you know, there was always
die. We all think we're going to die or something really topic's going to happen. It's not.
There was always an extent of me showing up as me anyway. I always did that. But this is the final level. So I interviewed on one of my podcasts, Galactic Guidance, I interview Marcus Bird, who channels a high dimensional being called Ahmed. And actually that episode's published today, which Ahmed said, take your underwear off. And that's what we're talking about here. So it's not just about showing yourself like who you really are. Like I've done that before many, 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 many times, but it's really like, what is the underwear that you're wearing that you don't want to show you don't want to show your naked self to, like your raw. And I know you're really good at this, Emma. This is one of your superpowers, which is to really show up for who you are. And that's why people love you, because they feel the authenticity, they feel the realness, they feel who you are. And that's what we need to do. That's what we're called to do. And that's why I've done this podcast, The Shame Game, because it's like, so every single week I interview somebody on their shame, then people can relate and think, well, I did that. I did that. I did that. It means I'm not so bad.
Exactly. Yes. Me. I love that. And that's why Kel and I do this. We just literally get people on, or we just chat, and it's about inspiring people, going, doesn't matter what's happened, where you've been, or what. Shit changes. But you've got to allow your shit to change. Because if you're sitting and wallowing in the shame of it, of the past, it's like you're pulling up this event that, say, you know, with you, Eleni, it was 27 years ago. You've pulled that up unconsciously and in your body for 27 years you've been holding on to it.
Yeah. And the other thing is
Is.
not only holding on to it, but what does it mean when we hold on to it? It means that there is a block there. There is an energetic block there. So shame is the lowest vibration there is. There is nothing lower than shame. It's lower than fear. It's the lowest that there's nothing lower than shame. And here I am doing all this high vibe stuff. Yay, I'm doing high vibe stuff. I'm increasing my consciousness and my awareness and doing all meditation twice a day and 3 times a day and doing everything else. But then I've got this big block there that I was unaware of. And so that's why we need to release that first.
100%.
That's what we've got to do
I
first.
think it's layers. It's like it is, it's all layers. And then we find something else and find something else and find something else, which is great because it just means we're freaking human. And we're on a soul journey here to learn and grow and love. But what I love about this is we've got to pull this old shit out to create a better energy for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I love seeing it in life. I always know when I'm out of alignment with my thoughts or my feelings and there's some kind of blockage there. It'll show up in my bank account. It'll show up in how I feel about myself. I've got to tell you this thing. This happened. I said this to myself. So this whole year, I have like this yearly thing. So last year was all about being present. This year, it's about really loving myself and honoring my body, honoring my age, honoring all of it, right? So I pulled myself up and I was like, my God. I was in I came out of the shower. I'm trying myself and I'm putting lotion on my skin. And I went, it's only like a month ago. And I went, my God, my skin looks amazing. Like, just feels so beautiful. And I went, a blind man would think I'm hot right now. What is that? What? So when I catch myself saying shitty things about myself, I go, bang, I'm out of alignment. So what is the shame that I still have around my body? I release it, I go into it, I release it, and it's gone. And then my thing is I have to always action something. I'm an action taker, right? Mm-hmm. I had to action. Well, what's the opposite of thinking that a blind man thinks I'm going to be hot? Why can't a well-seeing man think I'm sexy and gorgeous? You know, so then I had to do something like stand in front of the mirror and go, babe, you're stunning. You're beautiful. Look what your body's been through. You're gorgeous. And your husband thinks you're hot, you know? So one thing for me is like, notice it, feel it, action the opposite.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And that's why I had to create a podcast on it. It wasn't just about crying it out and letting it go. Now, I'm not suggesting that people need to create podcasts with every single thing they release, but what's the action you're going to take? Who are you going to speak to about it? How are you going to show up with it?
I love that. I love that so much. So tell me, I don't know if you want to go there or not, but we talk about everything on this podcast. You are such a go-getter, amazing businesswoman. I mean, God, you've just helped thousands and thousands of people. And I don't mean just clients, like people who needed help, but with what you've taught us, the hypnotherapists as well. What got you into the spiritual side, coming away? Because it was very masculine energy. You were very masculine energy, same as me. And then you went straight to that beautiful feminine, like spirituality. It was amazing.
Yeah, of course I'll talk about anything too. So it was, it's never one thing about anything, right? There's always a tapestry of events and situations and circumstances that take you where you need to go. I mean, the very first thing that really threw me into my femininity was meeting my partner, Christian. So Christian was very different to my beautiful former husband, John, and I love them both, but they're very different. So John was very enabling me to be masculine. He enabled that masculine energy for me to sort of hold that.
Yeah.
Whereas Christian sort of didn't accept it.
Yeah.
And he was very different. So as an example, Emma, I was, a control freak. I would control everything. Like even if we met up with a group of friends, they would always get me to choose a restaurant because I wouldn't be happy otherwise. So it always had to be what I wanted. And so even with John, like everywhere we went, everything we did, it was all, I booked all the accommodation. Everything was left up to me because I wanted it that way.
Yeah.
So Christian, as soon as he started dating me, he was like, okay, be ready, 7 p.m. next Thursday. Okay, where are we going? You don't need to know. And it was like, what? I need to know. What about
if you're nervous as you're like, no, I love this about Christian, actually.
Yeah.
So good.
what about if I don't like it? He goes, that's okay. You don't need to know. And he is the master of surprises. Like, and now I love it. I love that he just surprises me all the time. I don't know what I'm doing most weekends. I don't know. I have no idea. It's all taken care of. And I just want to say something though first, because I don't want to, imply that the other way was bad, because I needed that masculine energy to do what I needed to do with my business at the time. At the time, it was perfect.
Yeah.
And so everything is perfect. And so I was with John for 22 years, and that was perfect. It was divine. It was perfect. We were a perfect match for each other, and we gave each other what we needed for that time and that period of time in my life. But then it was time for me to step into my feminine energy, and I needed a partner that wouldn't accept me as the masculine. So I had to rediscover my feminine energy. I had to let go. I had to trust. I had to surrender. I had to stop doing the stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing that really was a big change for me, was to let go. You think, oh, big deal. So you didn't plan your restaurant anymore. That's not really letting go. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of letting go of so many more things. You'll be surprised that when you try and control your world, that everything you control, when you start to let go, it feels very awkward, and you really do feel as if this is feeling really strange and uncomfortable and I don't like it, until you start to like it. And now, like, the fact that I don't have all those responsibilities makes me, in the relationship, makes me feel just so much more unburdened and relaxed.
Yeah, it was for me and Anthony, because Anthony enabled me to be my masculine, and we did a lot of work on our relationship in 2016. And Anthony's very naturally in his feminine energy, except for when he's at work. And I'm very naturally my masculine energy, was a go-getter. And we made the arrangement, like, if we go out for dinner, I will tell him what he wants, but he'll order for me. He'll tell the waiter or the waitress what I'm eating. But I mean, I'll say this is what I want, but I can't order it myself. These are little tiny things. And he wants to open a door for me. And I just realized how much I would sit at a restaurant. I would order for everyone. I'd be ordering drinks and bang, 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 bang. I'd open the door for everyone. I was like the man. I literally was. And I didn't even give Anthony or my two boys the space to even be masculine. I didn't know, there was not even a breath. There wasn't even a pause where they could get in there and say, hey, this is what we want. I just did it all.
Yeah. And then I found I did that for my adult son too. So, and that was a huge realization. And that when I finally let go of that is when he stepped into his manhood. So, like, I was doing that for him too. Like, ordering for everybody, taking control of everything, including my adult son. And so I had to completely step back from all of that. And it's so good to step back, but it is difficult to begin with when you're not used to it.
Yeah, it's awkward. It is awkward. So those beautiful women and men sitting out there listening to this, don't worry, you're going to fuck it up. It's going to be really awkward. It's going to be so strange, but just keep giving it a go, because no one's going to die by ordering your dinner that night or taking you out for dinner. Nothing's bad's going to happen. It's just going to be allowed to happen. I was so controlling that even if the boys stacked the dishwasher, I would tell them, can you stack the dishwasher? I'd open it to check that they'd done it properly. Oh my God. I want to vomit when I think of that. I'm like, sorry, guys. Sorry. Then what happened? So you met Christian and you started learning about how to go on your feminine energy. I love that Christian was masculine enough to hold that space for you as well. That's beautiful. And that what created with that very spiritual side of you?
I don't know how much time we got because it was a very big thing.
for it. Great. Just, yeah.
So basically,
About 10 minutes if you can, go for it.
yeah, absolutely. So what, I had my awakening, I had my spiritual awakening, and which is very different to that awakening of empowerment, which comes earlier on. So we all have this journey. I started many, many years ago, 30 years ago, with depression and chronic anxiety. And then, once I embraced the fact that that doesn't have to be me and I'm not a victim, you step into empowerment and then you teach others about empowerment. But then I had this calling to do plant medicine. And I did my very first plant medicine experience 7th of July 2021, and it was the most profound experience of my life. And it was like I woke up. It was like you were asleep all this time. Here you were thinking that you were in control of everything. In fact, it was your ego. And I had the most incredible, massive awakening and form of ego death. Like I didn't even know like this sort of stuff before. So I knew about the law of attraction, and I understood that that whatever we do, we bring everything towards us. And I understood all of that about spirit guides and all of that, but I didn't understand how it worked from the perspective of me and really understanding the ego. I really didn't understand the ego previously. I thought it was like, that means that's like Donald Trump. I didn't know that actually the ego was very, very strong within me. And the ego was actually running the show. And it was a huge shock. I actually thought I was just confident. It was a huge, huge shock to see that the ego in me. And my whole life changed after that. So like I'm an action taker. So if I have insight about something, I'm taking action. I don't just let it ride and sit there and forget about it. Like my whole life changed. I changed my name. I reclaimed my birth name. Everything changed. I let go of so many things in my life. I closed down the most profitable arm of my business, which was very, very, very profitable. It was in excess of 7 figures per year that I had. It had arrived at a point where I had the teams, processes, systems. I didn't even have to turn up too much for it anymore, but I had to close it down. I knew that I just was no longer aligned, and I needed to close down what I was no longer aligned with. And that was one of the biggest things I ever did. It was very scary doing that. It was very frightening. Like here I had built this business from nothing to the state that it was, a huge team supporting me. And like, it was really operating exceptionally well, did even better during COVID. And then to take the action of, well, this is not what it's about. It's not about profit. You need to close it down. And that was one of the most difficult things I've ever done, Emma, was close down that arm of the business and to give me the space to do what I needed to do.
I mean, that's a big call, like all that money and knowing how successful it is just to go, there's an alignment. That's huge.
It was huge. And initially, because I was so frightened of doing it, I thought like, there's got to be a middle ground. I'll just create a funnel where I don't have to show up for anything at all, and it'll all happen by itself. And I did that for a while. I did that for a while. But even then, I didn't want to hear about any queries. Like even then, I didn't want to show up in any way. And it was clear to me that I just didn't want to show up in any way. So I had to close it all down. And it was this feeling of, but you've created all of this, and now you're just going to say it. Well, it's okay. I don't need to use it anymore. The ego is saying, but you've done all this work. You need to use it.
Yeah. When I had my plant medicine experience, we did 2 nights of it. We were in 2021 or 2020, I think. And I met my ego, and she drove me nuts. And literally, she was this little rotund woman, and she had a clipboard. And I just said to her, I went, babe, you got to go. She goes, if I go to tonight, she goes, you're going to die. She goes, I'll leave tomorrow. I went, okay. Fair enough. But my God, it really came up of how annoying I was in the ego. Like really
Controlling, annoying.
a nag, like negative, untrusting. I always know when my ego comes up, I start to distrust. You know, I'll distrust, like, is the money coming in? Will this be? I'm like, oh, that's not me. That's my coming up. Okay.
Do you know what the funny thing is, Emma? This is funny. So when I had my first plant medicine ceremony, at the end of it, I announced to the shaman, I said, well, that's it. The ego's gone. Like it's never coming back. Like never. And he was like, yeah, I'm not so sure. Very few people on planet Earth don't have an ego at all. Maybe Eckhart Tolle, you know. And I'm like, and me. And then what happens is, you know, the ego's so clever. And this is why the book that I've actually finished the second draft of my next book called The Ego Exposed. It's all about the ego. The spiritual ego came in. You know, it just comes in under a different disguise. It learns your little tricks. And like, you know stuff now. This is the stuff that you know. And so therefore separation is still playing out. And so that's why I'm so passionate about the ego, because it completely changed my life. And I'm very excited. It's so interesting, Emma, isn't it, that the first book's Mindset Dominance, which is all about the mind.
And dominance. Yes.
And the second book is all about leading from the heart.
So I just love the whole, you have created such a pathway for us. That's what I want to say. You just created such a pathway for all of us who want to just be authentic, because you're the one who gave me permission to be authentic.
Oh, well, I think that I could say the same thing to you, Emma. I really could, because I saw how you showed up. I saw how you showed up really authentically. Even like you said, in America, you know, you were still Emma. You didn't try and tame your ways for the Americans. You still showed up as you. You still showed up as you. And that was a lesson for me. So I think that's the beauty about the dance that we do, is that, you know, obviously for us to be, you know, showing up in each other's lives, we're teaching each other stuff. It can never be one way.
It can never. And this is a big thing. It's like, collaboration is everything. You know, it's working together, learning from each other. Because when we isolate ourselves or go, I'm better than that, or she's better than her, that's the ego.
Totally.
The ego will segregate us, and the ego will put a hierarchy in. And the minute these are little signs of when you know it's the pain body, the ego is coming out and play.
Yeah, but also on the other side, the ego also elevates other people. So the ego does that as well, puts other people on a pedestal. Like I had a conversation with a lady on my partner. I still have HypnoFit partners on my coaching call today. And I said, you're the same as me. And she said, no, I'm not. And you are. It's only the belief that you think that you're not that prevents you from being. And so that's also ego. The ego puts yourself in a hierarchy that you are either less than or more than someone else. You're separate to someone else.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I have loved our chat today.
Me too.
Oh, I love you. Can you please let people know, just say out there, how do people find you?
So EleniMitas.com, EleniMitas.com, and watch out for my podcast, The Shame Game, Soul Sisters Get Real. And if you want to get really, really, really woo-woo, Galactic Guidance.
I love it. It's so amazing. All right, my loves, thank you so much for listening to Eleni and myself. Kelly will be back next episode. And please, we are not sponsored. We are number 72 in the world, by the way, of podcasts. Whoop, whoop.
Well done.
Thank you. And please let us know what you think. Give us some love. Tell us what you would like us to talk about. If you know anyone that we would like on this podcast, let us know. Thanks, everyone. Eleni, love you, my love. Bye.
Love you.